Have you ever had that feeling that someone in your life is smiling at you while secretly sharpening the knife? They laugh at your jokes. They bring you coffee. They ask how you've been, how your mother's doing, what time you leave for work. And for a second, it feels good. But something deeper, more ancient, starts whispering in your chest. Something's off. You don't know what it is. You don't have proof. But your instincts, that primal compass forged by evolution and refined by experience, keeps twitching, and you ignore it until it's too late. Here's the first hard truth no one tells you. Some people don't just dislike you, they want to dismantle you, quietly, not with punches, not with threats, but with precision. And here's a second truth, the one most people can't stomach. They'll do it with a smile, not because you deserve it, but because they saw something in you they wanted to destroy. Your light, your certainty, your quiet confidence. And now they've moved in close, not as enemies, but as friends. They don't hate you, they want you gone. Let that echo for a second, because this video isn't about negativity, it's about awareness. The kind of stoic clarity that doesn't panic, it prepares. So listen closely. You're about to learn the 5 most disturbing signs that someone in your life isn't just toxic. They're dangerous. And by the time you finish this video, you'll see clearly what most people miss until it's far too late. This might not be an easy listen, but it could save your peace. It could protect your boundaries, and maybe it could save your life. Because the most chilling threats don't knock. They wait, they watch, and they wear the perfect mask. Before we begin, I want you to think of one person, the one who came to mind the moment you clicked on this video. Yeah, that one. If your gut already whispered a name, don't ignore it. Because as Marcus Aurelius once said, the closer the wound is to your heart, the more carefully it must be watched. Now take a breath. What you're about to hear is not fear-mongering. It's not paranoia. It's clarity. And clarity is your shield. Coming up next, the first sign most people laugh off until it becomes a trap they can't escape. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to spot it in seconds. Let's begin. They don't knock. They don't scream. They don't even make you uncomfortable and at first. In fact, the most dangerous people often enter your life the way fog slips into a valley, unnoticed, unbothered, and everywhere before you even realize you're surrounded. They're polite, they're quiet, they seem harmless, maybe even helpful. The kind of person who always seems to be nearby, at the cafe you frequent, in your gym, on your friend's social feed. You brush it off as coincidence, but something feels off. You begin to notice they know too much. Things you never told them, places they shouldn't know you'd be. They mention your dog park routine, your favorite coffee order, the day you're planning to take off work. You never told them that. So how do they know? Because they've been watching, not admiring, not respecting, studying. And it's not curiosity, it's strategy. These people don't come in like enemies. They come in like patterns, subtle, repetitive, persistent. You mention something to a friend, and days later this person brings it up. They weren't there. They shouldn't have heard it, but somehow they know. Not everything, just enough. Enough to make you pause. Enough to make you question yourself. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe they're just observant. That's what your mind says. But your body, your nervous system, your gut, says something else. And it's in that quiet tension between your logic and your instinct that the silent observer thrives. Stoic philosophy teaches us to guard our perceptions, not out of fear, but out of discipline. Epictetus wrote, "We are disturbed not by things, but by the view we take of them." But what if your view is being manipulated? What if your reality is being sculpted by someone whose only goal is to gather intel, not build connection? That's not friendship. That's surveillance. And it's the first phase of psychological warfare. Observation without confrontation. Why? Because they're learning your patterns, your vulnerabilities, your routines, and every detail they extract, even from a distance, is another piece in the puzzle they're quietly constructing about how to access your world. This is not paranoia. This is preparation. The most dangerous threats don't show their teeth. They watch your footsteps. They learn where you're soft. They memorize your timing. Because predators, real ones, don't hunt like in the movies. They wait, they collect, and when the time is right, they move. So when someone knows too much about you, and you never offered that knowledge, don't explain it away. Don't excuse it because they're friendly. Ask yourself, how do they know? Why do they know? What do they want? And if the answer doesn't come clean, walk slower, observe harder, because clarity begins where comfort ends. And the first sign of a true threat is silence. They won't argue with you. They won't insult you. They won't scream or fight or make a scene. Number the ones who want to dismantle you from the inside out. Do it with silence and suggestion. At first it's small, a strange shift in how your manager talks to you, a cool tone in a friend's voice, an invitation that never comes. You wonder, did I do something wrong? You replay conversations. You doubt your memory. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to question your own reality. Not because of what's said to your face, but because of what's said behind your back. That's the art of the saboteur. They don't lie outright. They don't need to. All they have to do is distort, bend, reframe. Just enough to alter how others see you, and worse, how you see yourself. Maybe they say, "She's been off lately. I'm worried about her." Or, "He's just been a bit unstable recently, don't you think?" Innocent on the surface. But beneath it, a virus of doubt. And doubt spreads fast, especially in silence. One by one, people around you start to treat you differently. They pull back. Opportunities disappear. Nobody says why. Nobody explains. Because the saboteur never attacks you directly. They attack your image in rooms you're not even in. This tactic is so powerful because it requires no proof. Just tone, just timing, just the right phrase delivered with the right look at the right moment. You didn't hear it from me, but... And suddenly your integrity starts to erode. Not because you've changed, but because your reputation has been slowly rewritten by someone who knows exactly how to bend the narrative. That's why Marcus Aurelius warned, "The opinion of others is not your concern, but your character always is." But what happens when your character is redefined without your presence? You start doubting yourself. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I came across wrong. Maybe they're right. Number, they're not. You are being gaslit, not by a loud enemy, but by a quiet manipulator who's turning everyone else into weapons. They don't confront you. They corrode you. And if you try to defend yourself, you look paranoid. That's their genius. They create a situation where your clarity makes you look crazy. So how do you fight that? The Stoic doesn't react. The Stoic records. You don't chase rumors. You document patterns. You protect your integrity with consistency. You show up with clarity, not emotion, because the saboteur thrives on emotional reactions. When you stay grounded, when you speak only when necessary, when your actions contradict their whispers, the illusion they built begins to crack. The Stoic shields himself not with anger, but with observation. And once you see the signs of sabotage, you don't need to fix everyone's opinion. You just need to hold your ground. Because when you stop feeding the distortion, it loses power. They don't show up like enemies. They don't come with threats or coldness. They come with comfort. They show up when you're tired, when you're hurting, when the world feels just a little too heavy. And they offer warmth. They listen. They validate. They ask the kind of questions that feel like care. Tell me more about your past. What's been stressing you out lately? Who do you really trust? At first it feels like connection, but in truth it's a scan. A slow, deliberate information sweep designed not to build with you, but to build a file on you. They collect your secrets, your patterns, your soft spots. They memorize how you talk about your childhood, your insecurities, your relationships. And they do it all under the illusion of intimacy. But here's what they don't do. They don't share. Not really. Not the way you do. Sure, they might sprinkle in a few stories to make you feel safe, but their stories don't cost them anything. Yours do. You give them the kind of access most people earn slowly, and they take it like it was owed. That's why Stoic philosopher Seneca warned us, "A friend to all is a friend to none." Real trust must be tested, over time, through fire, through distance. But false friends, they move fast. They rush closeness. One week it's coffee. The next they're asking about your deepest fears. And before long, they're integrated into your life, your friends, your work, your rhythm. And just when you start to depend on them, they shift. Maybe they disappear. Maybe they turn. Maybe they leak something small, a comment you made in private, a story you told in confidence. And suddenly it's public, or twisted, or used as leverage. And you think, how did they know exactly where to hit? Because you showed them. Not because you were stupid, but because you were open. Because you trusted someone who wore the perfect mask. That's what hurts most. Not the betrayal, but the fact that you helped them do it. And this is the danger of unearned intimacy. Not all kindness is connection. Not all closeness is safety. And not everyone who listens to you is there to help you. The Stoic solution isn't to shut down, it's to discern. You don't need to build walls around your heart. You build gates, controlled, tested, selective. Watch how people respond when you set a boundary. Do they respect it or guilt you for it? Do they slow down when you ask for space or push harder? Real friends don't need constant access. They earn it through consistency, integrity, and restraint. False friends press fast. And when you finally say no, when you finally push back, their mask slips. Pay attention to that. Because when someone asks for your secrets but offers no real self in return, you're not building a friendship. You're building a weapon and handing it to someone who's smiling while they sharpen the blade. It doesn't start with violence. It doesn't start with anger. It starts with a smile and a joke, one that leaves you frozen while everyone else laughs. "I could kill you for that," they say, eyes locked with yours. Just kidding. And maybe you laugh too, a tight, uncomfortable laugh. But inside something shifts. You feel that cold pulse behind the ribs. that flicker in your nervous system, that whisper again, "This isn't right." But you brush it off because it was just a joke, right? That's how escalation begins. Not with threat, but with testing. They say something off-color, something dark, something inappropriate. Then they watch. Do you flinch? Do you speak up? Do you laugh along? Either way, they've learned something. If you react, they know where your boundary is. If you don't, they know they can push further next time. This isn't humor, it's data collection. It's psychological choreography. Each joke is a gentle push against the line until the line disappears completely. Soon the jokes become more specific, more violent. They don't just tease, they hint. Hypotheticals start slipping into conversation. If I ever snapped, I'd make it look like an accident. Or, sometimes I wonder how easy it'd be to disappear someone. Everyone laughs. But you freeze. Because your gut knows what your brain refuses to admit. These aren't jokes. These are rehearsals. Rehearsals for harm, and then it escalates again. From words to space. They begin standing too close, watching too long, brushing past you when they don't need to. You back up. They lean in. You speak less. They talk more. And when you finally react, finally confront the discomfort, they smirk. They say, "Relax, I'm just messing with you." But they're not. They're training you to doubt your instincts, training you to question your reactions, training you to normalize discomfort. So when something worse happens, you freeze instead of flee. Stoic wisdom teaches us to see what others ignore, to pierce through illusion and recognize what lies beneath. That's why the Stoic doesn't laugh just because others do. He observes, he questions, and when the energy feels wrong, he doesn't explain it away. He withdraws. Because escalation is never random. It's measured, calculated, intentional. Let me tell you a story. Leah thought she was being polite. Her new neighbor seemed kind, helpful, always nearby. Then one night during a group cookout, he laughed and said, "I'd make a perfect killer. I know how to hide the evidence." Everyone laughed. Leah didn't. A week later, a hunting knife appeared on her doorstep. No note, no prints, just silence. The police said it was probably a prank. She knew better. She changed her locks, installed a camera. 2 weeks later, he was caught at 2:07 a.m., trying to pick her lock, wearing gloves, holding a black duffel bag. Inside, zip ties, tape, a map of her apartment. That's not fiction. That's escalation. The Stoics didn't teach us to live in fear. They taught us to live with eyes open. Seneca wrote, "He who is warned is armed." The next time someone laughs while crossing your boundary, don't wait for proof. If you feel the shift, trust it. If your body tenses, listen. If the joke leaves you cold, it wasn't a joke, it was a warning. They don't tell jokes. They don't crowd your space. They don't need to, because they've already studied you, and they've chosen a different tactic: patience. They're not interested in confrontation or games. They're interested in control, silent, clean, permanent. They ask the kinds of questions that sound caring. What time do you usually get home? Still running in the mornings? That trip you mentioned, it's next month, right? Each question sounds harmless, but strung together over time, it forms a map of your routines, your vulnerabilities, your solitude. These predators don't hunt with emotion. They hunt with data, calculated, surgical, emotionless. They remember every detail you forget you shared, not because they care, but because they're building a blueprint. They know your schedule better than your family. They remember your birthday. They offer to feed your cat, water your plants, bring over dinner when you're sick. And you think, what a thoughtful person. But what you don't see, what they don't want you to see, is the precision behind every move. Every kind gesture is logged. Every routine is mapped, not because they want to get close to you, but because they want to control access to you. Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "Be watchful not only of what others do, but why they do it. Intent is everything." A patient predator doesn't push. They wait. Wait until you're tired. Wait until your defenses are down. Wait until your support system thins out. And when the time comes, when your guard is gone and your trust is earned, they move. Not loudly, not clumsily, but cleanly. And you never see it coming. And when it happens, you'll feel guilt. You'll ask, how could I have let them in? You'll replay every moment where they helped, where they smiled, where they showed up. And you'll question whether your discomfort was ever real. But it was. You just silenced it. Because they were kind. Because they were consistent. But remember, consistency is not character, and charm is not virtue. The most dangerous people in your life aren't always angry. They're calm. They're helpful. They're attentive. But behind that stillness is strategy, a timeline, a goal. And if your story fits their plan, you're not a person to them. You're a task, one they've been quietly preparing to complete. That's why Stoicism doesn't just teach us to protect ourselves from chaos. It teaches us to protect ourselves from illusion, from the trap of false safety, from the seduction of easy closeness, and from the lie that danger always looks dangerous. Because the truth is, real danger often looks like a friend. So when someone seems too helpful, too eager, too informed, don't just say thank you. Ask yourself why. What do they gain by being so close, so quiet, so perfectly timed? Your boundaries are not paranoia. They are architecture. The people who mean you well will respect them. The people who don't will try to walk through the back door smiling. And when all 5 signs show up, the observer, the saboteur, the false friend, the escalating threat, and now, the silent predator, you don't need a 6th sign. You need to awaken. If you've watched this far, something inside you has already shifted. You've seen the signs. You've felt the tension. You've remembered someone, maybe more than one. And now, you can't unsee it. That smile that lingers too long. That friend who always asks questions but never shares. That coworker who always seems to know more than they should. You look back and realize they were never chaotic. They were calculated. And that's the part that hurts the most. Not the betrayal, not even the manipulation. What hurts is the silence. The fact that while you were giving them your trust, your time, your stories, they were planning, they were waiting. And now that you've seen it, now that the curtain has lifted, you don't get to go back to who you were before. But maybe that's the gift, because what you just experienced is clarity, and clarity is power. Not the loud kind, not the flashy kind, the kind that moves without permission, the kind that sees without needing proof, the kind that the Stoics mastered, the calm, centered knowing that does not chase approval, does not seek revenge, and does not beg to be understood. From this point forward, you walk different. You no longer ignore that whisper in your gut. You don't justify discomfort. You don't hand out access like candy. You listen, You slow down. You protect your peace without apology. And if someone tries to guilt you for setting a boundary, that's your first sign they were never safe. Because real connection respects the gate. Only manipulation demands the key. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not a quote. That's a weapon. Because now your strength is internal. It doesn't depend on how others treat you. It depends on how quickly you recognize who they are and act accordingly. So don't wait for someone to prove they're harmful. Don't wait for the blow to land. If the signs are there, the pattern, the energy, the gut feeling, that is your evidence. That is your shield. You do not need to justify your instincts to anyone. You do not owe access to people who study your pain. You do not owe softness to those who tested your silence. You do not owe closure to the ones who cracked you open just to watch you bleed. You owe yourself one thing: sovereignty. That means choosing who enters your life and who doesn't. That means trusting yourself enough to walk away before things explode. That means becoming the kind of presence that no longer bends just to avoid discomfort. From today forward, you are not the target. You are the fortress. You're not reactive. You're responsive. You're not naive. You're awake. You're not available to people who feed on your openness. You're reserved, selective, calm. And that calm, it's your power. Because the person who walks through life fully aware, fully centered, fully in command of their own access is untouchable. Let them wonder why you changed. Let them say you've become distant. Let them miss the version of you who stayed quiet, who played nice, who gave too much. That version of you is gone, and what's replaced it is something sharper, still, and stronger. A soul that no longer needs to be seen, to be secure. That's what Stoicism teaches us, and that's what this journey has unlocked. You didn't just learn how to spot danger. You learned how to stop participating in your own sabotage. So when the manipulator returns with a smile, with a story, with a, "Hey, how have you been?" you won't flinch. You won't fight. You'll simply walk away with silence, with grace, with power. Because you saw it, you faced it, and now you are free.